Today's show brought to you in part by GoToMeeting. For a free 30-day trial, use code podcast at gotomeeting.com.
You got to practice before you preach. What's wrong with this picture now?
Hey, welcome to What's Wrong with This Picture. I'm Andy McCaskey from RVNN TV, and introducing Dennis Guillaume, the host of the show and our preacher for the day.
A preacher, yeah. I'm going to preach.
You got to practice before you preach, though.
That's right.
What's that got to do with photography?
Quite a bit, actually. We've been preaching a lot about a lot of different things when it comes to using a DSLR. Mm-hmm. And we've been encouraging people to experiment with all those controls and so on that they get when they spend that money on that DSLR. And yet we're probably not getting them real comfortable with all those different controls and so on because they haven't had a chance to practice.
Right,
and
right.
What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about one particular app that seems to be really very inventive, the way they did this thing. I'm really impressed with it. And it's something that allows you to practice without having to go out and drag the camera out and do all this experimentation. You can do it right there on your computer at home.
Okay, so you've got a camera simulator, coincidentally called
CameraSim.
CameraSim.
CameraSim.com,
yeah.
I think it is.
Okay, so you can go right to the website,
right.
and you can take a look at this thing, and then you can also download it to your portable device,
right.
your smartphone or iPad.
If you elect to, you can pay a very small amount and actually download it to your laptop, or you can play with it online. Well,
let's jump in and take a look at the online version here,
okay.
and see just what happens, how these controls interact. And this is kind of teaching you, adjusting the controls, and then very quickly letting you see what those results would be.
Right. And when we take pictures, we're dealing with, here you see the interface that you will encounter when you go there. Basically, you've got the ability to change various things. I'm down here on the left-hand side with this cursor, and really what we're going to experiment with is lighting, which you don't have a lot of control of sometimes, unless you're in a studio situation. The distance you are from the subject, the focal length in terms of what lens you've chosen, and maybe what zoom level that you've actually chosen, the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed, and those are the basic things that you can change on your DSLR. So. Here we have a little girl. She's moving back and forth, intentionally making it
just like a little kid would do.
Right.
You're trying to get her to be still. You're trying to get a good expression.
Right. She's got this pinwheel that's moving.
Right.
And we've got some objects in the background that will test our ability to control depth of field and so on. So we're going to look at this little girl. She's in sunlight. And as a matter of fact, if you look down here on the left-hand side, the top slider, you see that it says mostly sunny. Now I can move that slider to the right, or I can move it to the left and change the lighting conditions. Partly cloudy, mostly sunny, and so on, and go all the way down into dim and bright indoor light. And so I can change the light conditions as those same conditions you will probably encounter as you're taking pictures. So let's say that for right now I'm going to stay with mostly sunny, and I'm going to...
So very quickly, we've got a 1/25th of a second, and what's the next one? F8?
F8, and what we really want to watch is this little scale here in the middle, right below the little girl, and that acts as your light meter, and what that does is tell you if you move things too far to one side, you're going to overexpose. You see how that marker moved right? And then if I move it the other direction, change the f-stop in this case, I'll underexpose that picture. So you're searching for the setting that's going to be right as close to in the center as you can find.
Okay.
Now, so then to the right of that, you have an ISO setting, which tells you how fast the sensor is affected by light.
Okay. So how do you take a picture?
All right, when you want to take a picture, you go over here to the right and you see this button, and you push the button and it takes the picture. Now, I just took the picture and it says down here, again, nice shooting. It liked the way I did it last time.
It did, yes.
If I want to return to the viewfinder and play around, I just hit the button again and I go back to this setting. Now, here's how this thing works. We're going to accept mostly sunny as the light control. And down below mostly sunny, you can see distance. I can move in and I can move out away from the subject. Now, this is what I have referred to in the past as zooming with your feet.
Right.
Okay, so you have the option of moving in and out to zoom with your feet, and we're going to leave it right about there. And then you've got focal length. Now, focal length is going to zoom with your lens in and out, 25 millimeters up to 55 millimeters, and we'll leave it somewhere in the middle, around 40, 43 or 41 millimeters. There we are. All right, now over here I've got a choice of ISO setting. Now what this is going to do is if I change my ISO, I'm changing the sensitivity of the sensor itself, so that as I raise the ISO, I need less light to be available. As I lower the number of the ISO, I need more light to be available. So we're set at 200, which is a good standard default setting for most DSLRs.
Now, back in the old film days, if you went to a faster film where you could have lower light, there was always a trade-off as far as the graininess of the picture. If you had really fast film, you could shoot in all kinds of low situations, but the pictures weren't so good.
Right, and nothing has changed there. Actually, we still end up with those same situations. And I'll give you an example. Here we're at 200, and everything is really pretty good. But now let's say that I decided I wanted to be able to.
You're going to go insane here.
Yeah, I'm
okay,
gonna
you're up
go,
at 1600.
I'm going to go nuts. We're going to go to ISO 32. You see, this pegs the light meter up here.
Right.
So now I'm going to have to reduce the size of the opening to try to get that thing to come down, and it just started to come down when I got to f22. So I'm going to have to increase the shutter speed to get it to come down to get a good exposure further. All right, now I'm at ISO 3200. I take the picture. It's going to be a good picture. And it says, not bad, but the image could be a little less grainy. And what they're saying, and it's a little hard even to see on this thing, but what they're saying is that this thing is got a lot of grain and a lot of noise.
Can you zoom up on that here in the computer?
I don't know that I can.
Yeah, push 2 fingers up, 2 fingers together. There you go.
Okay.
We can zoom up. I don't know if we can.
We're not.
You have to really have a good display to be able to take a look at that.
And we're dealing in 72 DPI, so that or PPI, so that makes a big difference. But the thing to notice is that my aperture is at 22, which means it's very small. And so what's going to happen to depth of field? It's going to become wider because I've got a small opening. Okay. So you see these slides and things in the background. All this stuff is
totally in focus.
In good focus. Now, if I were to go back to the settings again, and there she is moving around again, and I take the ISO and I move it down to 200. Now at f22, I can't get away with that. So I'm going to have to lower this to let's see, at 250th of a second, I'm going to have to lower this. In fact, let's run this up a little bit more. Let's run this up to, say 800th of a second. Now I'm going to have to open the aperture even more. All right, now I'm at f 3.2. All right, now what's going to happen to the background? The depth of field is going to get very narrow because I've got the aperture all the way open. Yeah. So now if I take this picture, it says it's going to be a good exposure because the light meter's in the middle. I take the picture and sure enough it's a good exposure, but look what happened. All of that was in focus in the background is now out of focus, and that's a desirable condition oftentimes. That's why we want those big aperture lenses.
Right.
Because we can control what's in focus and what's not. Now,
look at the pinwheel.
Yeah. The little girl is really the center of attention because everything else is blurred behind her, a desirable condition. But look what happened with the pinwheel. It stopped dead because we shot that thing at 800th of a second. And so at an 800th of a second, you see that pinwheel that was moving is stopped dead. and that's because we use the fast enough shutter speed. So this device is going to let you, this app is going to let you experiment with shutter speed, with aperture, with ISO, and with your lighting and your focal length, and you're going to be able to see what things do change in terms of depth of field and motion and all that sort of thing, and you don't have to go out of your office or your living room if you want to play with it and learn a lot about your DSLR without going out of the comfort of air conditioning.
Right. Well, what we'll do is we need to split this into two parts because we haven't talked about the priorities that you can give to the aperture or priorities to the shutter and the manual mode, some of the other things that you can run on this simulator. And I might remind you that the app, what we have shown here is free on the website, and then if you begin to pull that off onto your tablet or smartphone, you can have even more fun and more realistic simulation of your $700 or more DSLR.
That's right.
For the low price of less than $2.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, well that really takes care of today's episode. I might remind you to tune in next week when you'll have a chance to discuss outdoor photography series. The landscape photography, that's going to be what you're going to be talking with Courtney about.
That's right.
And going through there as well. Don't forget to circle us on G+. You can find us on Facebook. And, of course, you can send questions or comments through your Twitter account, direct to Dennis, by just using the hashtag 3WTP for what's wrong with this picture. And then, finally, don't forget what's wrong with this picture has a board on the RVNN TV Pinterest board, where there are additional photographs and comments and articles that I know that you'll find interesting. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andy McCaskey from RVNN TV.
Hey, Gabe, want to go for a walk? Gabe? Gabe? Gabe?
Hey, buddy, you lost? Hold on.
If your pet is the adventuresome type, be sure he's connected to PetHub. A quick scan using any smartphone shares your pet's vital information, so that even his wildest escapades have a happy ending. PetHub, reuniting pets with their families.
Come on, Gabe, let's go home.